The 2014 legislative session adjourned in March, and since then you've been back in district for a long 9-month interim. How did you spend your interim?
How did I spend my interim? Well, it was nice to get out in 60 days this last year, and I have a small business back in Walla Walla that I was paying attention to. I sell Walla Walla sweet onion sausages, and we're in a couple of ballparks, and I make it for one of our local grocery stores, so my business kept me busy. I've got a couple of boys living at home, and just, basic summer activities and jobs, and I tried to stay engaged with some of my legislative activities as well. It's important that over the interim, especially during an election year, we don't forget that we're legislators and we're tasked with a job. It isn't all about the election, and I'm a fairly safe incumbent, so I can focus a little more time on my legislative work.
Back in December, Governor Inslee issued his budget proposals, which would require more than $1 billion in net tax increases. What are your thoughts on his proposals?
Well, I think we're kind of all over the board as far as what types of financial requirements there are going to be for this budget cycle. And whether we're able to meet some of the demands of McCleary, I think that's imperative. We've been tasked by the court. We're being held in contempt in order to get us to do something more in that regard. Although that being said, I think we were on track to meet those obligations of McCleary by 2018. But the court disagreed with us, so we're definitely going to do our due diligence to try to meet or at least satisfy the court. I don't think anybody wants to shortchange education, but I do think that there is a little bit of a separation of powers issue where maybe the court overstepped a little bit in telling the legislature how to do their job. But that said, I don't think anybody wants to shortchange education, so I think that we'll try to do what we can for that. Governor Inslee's got some other very creative ideas as far as climate change and some other things. He's on the same page with me about early learning. I think when we talk about investing government resources, maybe a good place to invest those is trying to help empower families to raise their own children and get their kids ready for school. I think we will alleviate a lot of problems that come along in the future as a result of dysfunction in families, and I think if the government can help with resources for young parents to help them be better parents, I think we will all gain a huge benefit from that.
What are your priorities for this 105-day legislative session?
Number one, to get out in 105 days. I think we all know what we need to do, and we just have to kind of collaborate and do it. The majorities are very close. We've got apparently 74 Democrats in the legislature and 73 Republicans. So that sort of forces cooperation. And frankly, I think, we do a pretty good job on the state level anyway, cooperating with one another. It doesn't really matter if you're a D or an R around here. If you got a good idea, people are inclined to support it. Everything requires bipartisan support now because of those numbers. And so, my hope and expectation is that we know what we need to do. We've set those goals, and I think that we're going to try to achieve those in 105 days. Early learning, I'm going to continue to push for that, just for the reasons I mentioned in my last statement, how important I think that is, and that's a great time for government resources to be applied. And so, I'm anxious to get moving with this session and see some good legislation come out. Not too much legislation. I think we got lots of legislation on the books, so I'm hopeful that we can do things that will again help empower families instead of enable them, and again, just get out of here on time. I think that's a worthy goal. I'm Representative Maureen Walsh, and I always appreciate hearing from you and welcome your ideas, comments, and feedback. If I can ever be of assistance to you in any way, please let me know by calling, writing, or sending me an email. I also encourage you to sign up for my email updates from my website, which is on your screen. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. It is an honor to be your state representative.